First Nations called PEI Abigwit. It means cradled on the waves. But the gentle nature of those words are at risk because of climate change. I'm Luke Kenny. This week, a challenge to Islanders to lead the way in the fight against climate change. Can PEI become the first place in North America to be 100% renewable?
I'm Kayla Woodside. Many say what was once an unrealistic dream is now doable. We'll look at a passive solar house with no furnace and new efforts to store wind energy. That and more coming up on the Holland College Surveyor webcast.
In mid-January, CBC reported that PEI's newest wind farm in Hermanville on the northeast coast will soon be operational. This will place PEI in a very unique position. Islanders will get more of their electricity from wind energy than any other place in North America.
But there's a small group of Islanders who think we can go even further, to 100% reliance on renewables. A York home outside of Charlottetown is standing proof it can be done. Tracy Allen saves $3,200 a year using the sun as her heat and light for her home. A passive solar home utilizes the sun's light and holds the heat.
Well, basically you're taking free energy and using it to heat your house in the simplest terms. And I mean, they've been doing it since like the 1920s in Germany. It's a proven concept.
The house faces the south with large windows allowing the sun to shine in.
The sun goes on an angle, and so the summer it comes down straight. So the eave will cut off the sun, so no sun enters the house. And then in the winter, the sun shifts and it comes in this way, and it comes in on an angle. So we get full coverage of the floor by December 21st on our wall.
The concrete floor and the earth pushed against the other walls of the home hold the heat. When the weather is minus 35 degrees outside, her home still stays warm. Only on cloudy days does Allen have to use her wood stove as a backup heat source. Allen only has to use half of her wood pile throughout the year. Allen's explanation of her way of living is simple.
You don't have an oil bill, do you? I would convince anybody. No, we just, I mean, you know that there's only so much oil in the world, and the price is going up, up, up. And if you've been around as long as myself and your instructor, you've seen it go from here to like this.
Allen thinks other Islanders can do this too. In fact, she and Matthew McCarville are proposing that PEI become 100% reliant on renewable energy.
It would basically be a grassroots-driven campaign to try to push our politicians into getting things started. We're already doing a lot of things on Prince Edward Island, but it would just be a matter of ramping that up.
Allen and McCarville uses Samso Island's success as a vision for PEI. The small island has been 100% renewable since 2005. Allen and McCarville have been holding community meetings through the island to project the vision.
What I'm hoping to do is take all these meetings and develop a strategic plan that, you know, how we can make it happen. And then we'll go as a group of representatives from across the island to government and say, this is what we'd like.
With more interest growing and Islanders able to see the savings for family living, projects like Summerside storage testing and Hermanville's wind farm are pushing the island towards Allen and McCarville's goal, 100% renewable energy.
There's one big challenge to getting to 100% renewable. The wind doesn't always blow and the sun isn't always shining. So electric utilities have to ensure that they have access to enough backup power so customers can keep using the modern conveniences that we all enjoy 24/7.
But there's one important source of renewable backup power that's available, hydroelectric power from Quebec. Matthew Avong has that story.
Maritime Electric are the principal power providers on PEI, the ones who supply the energy customers demand. Could Maritime Electric provide 100% renewable energy to the province?
In the long term, I think it's a reasonable goal with the development of alternate energy sources through solar and other means.
Maritime Electric Vice President John Goody says the new Hermanville wind farm will help. It's home to 10 turbines, in fact, the largest wind turbines in North America.
The provincial government's owned Hermanville wind farm will be coming online in the coming weeks, which will provide another 7 or 8% of Prince Edward Island's requirements.
Once the wind farm is in operation, PEI will get 30% of its energy from wind, the highest of any jurisdiction in North America. Getting to 100% will take advancements in technology and extra costs islanders might not be willing to pay.
Currently, today, we're getting all of our renewable energy from wind, and there are limitations as to how much you can get from wind.
Hydro-Quebec could be another source for renewable energy. The company expects to have extra power every year until 2027, but for now, that power is unavailable to islanders.
We enter into contracts with suppliers for a fixed term, and so we have commitments to other suppliers right now out to the end of February 2016.
When the contracts end, Maritime Electric will put in a request for energy pricing, including Hydro-Quebec. If PEI could ever source renewable energy from Hydro-Quebec, that would go a long way to meeting the 100% target.
It depends upon how much money is invested and how many organizations are working on the R&D.
And Goody says there will be advancements in solar and other technologies which will push PEI to that goal as well. Matthew Yvong for the Holland College Surveyor webcast.
And here on PEI, there are new efforts to find what would be the holy grail for renewable energy. Some way to store excess wind energy to be used later on.
First, let's go to Summerside, where homeowners are heating their homes during the day with wind energy produced from the night before. Here's Jocelyn Claiborne.
Here in Summerside, renewable energy isn't just the latest craze, it's a way to save money. We sat down with Greg Goody to talk about a new city program that uses wind energy to heat nearby homes.
My PowerNet consists of using the community's wind farm and electricity opportunities to pass the wind farm benefits of electricity generation into people's homes, businesses, and industries. So we decided we could offer this energy at 8 cents a kilowatt hour, provided it was the right type of appliance that was using it, which is where that comes into the Heat for Less Now program.
We asked residents of Summerside if they're familiar with the renewable energy programs.
No, I haven't heard that one yet. But
Okay.
we just got that flyer that looks like a doorknob holder.
Have you heard of that program?
No, I don't think so.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Didn't know about that. Fortunately, I live just outside of Summerside.
How do people find out about the program?
We have advertising in the local paper. There was a fair amount. What we're finding over time is word of mouth. People are doing it, and once they get comfortable with the technology in the program, they recommend it to their neighbors and friends, or the person that's using it for their residential home will now try to incorporate it into their commercial business. We have about 20% of our participants in the areas that are totally ready for it, and we have about 80% that are using the benefit, but the utility isn't there yet to do everything that they can do with the system.
What's the timeline to have the whole city done?
A great question. We expect within 3 to 5 years we should have the project completed.
What has the public response been?
Public response has been good. We had 99% customer satisfaction. So the My PowerNet initiative is a very unique initiative, not only in North America, not only in Canada, but across the world. And it's being recognized across the world, where a lot of people are looking at our model and our programs and our systems to try to figure out how they can adapt them to their local area. So it's been a great initiative recognized worldwide.
We asked Summerside residents what heats their home.
Oil and wood.
Oil.
Actually, wood.
Even before I came here, my sister had the house, and it was oil at that time too.
Bobby Dunn works for the city of Summerside. He manages the sale and installation of ceramic heaters.
The response is tremendous. It's hard to keep up with it, actually.
The cost of a ceramic heater? From $1,500 to $2,600. That includes taxes, installation, the size of the kilowatt block, and electrician fees. Dunn says it's worth it.
I tell people for every $1,000 you're spending on oil, we'll save you $300.
And here's how they work.
Think of a heating element in your oven. Think of 4 rows of bricks stacked on top of each other. So you can see the curved indentation here. So it allows the elements to sit in between, and they're insulated the same way NASA does their space capsules. Then has a little variable speed motor in there that with a thermostat that senses the temperature in your home and outside. Whatever temperature you're looking for that room to be at, that microprocessor picks up the temperature of the room and says, oh, they're calling for heat. That little fan kicks on, starts to blow out the heat that's being stored within those bricks.
But how do those ceramic bricks heat up? Wind energy.
During the off-peak hours, we're sending energy to those through our utility plant, which is getting the energy from our wind turbines. Sustainability and green and clean is really, it's no longer just a new concept. It's the way of the future.
So, are Summerside residents ready for that switch? And the costs that come with it?
I'd consider it, but not at this time, because we're fighting right now just to keep our oil in the house.
Yes. Well, it's cheaper on your light bill and everything else, so it's a good way to save money over time.
Now, would the extra cost impact your decision?
At the moment, yes. Just because can't afford it.
I don't think we would go with solar energy.
Why?
I'm not sure, maybe because maybe the cost, but I don't know how much it costs.
Yes, for sure. Just due to the fact that I like things that are more natural as opposed to things that could harm the environment. The cost for switching over I look at the long run as opposed to what the initial cost would be.
Dale Martin saw the value in these Summerside programs. Jillian Trainer talked to the resident about how he's warmed up to the ceramic heater.
The other bonus with it, too, is instead of paying 12 cents a kilowatt hour, I only have to pay 8 cents a kilowatt hour in the winter during the heating season. Pretty well heats the whole downstairs part of the house, and my furnace never comes on when that's on, and that's probably basically from about 5 at night till 11 at night.
Have you noticed any differences with heating?
I noticed a difference in my oil bill.
How so?
I probably cut down about 1,000 liters a year.
Summerside municipal staff recognize the savings possible with the Heat for Less Now and the My PowerNet programs. It's time to spread the word to homeowners, because if Dale Martin can save 1,000 liters a year, maybe you can too.
And up at the Wind Energy Institute of Canada, there's new research on storage. Melanie Jackson has that report.
With today's increased demands on electricity, islanders are looking at alternative energy sources, like wind. At the Wind Energy Institute in North Cape, staff are rolling out a new way of storing the excess energy produced by the windmills using a large-scale battery. But the question remains, will PEI ever be able to meet those increased demands?
Unless we can better economically store energy, we will always need some form of backup generation. The wind generally blows in PEI, but it doesn't always blow. As our load continues to increase in the province, we have been putting more wind turbines on, and we're pushing the envelope.
With islanders using more electricity at the end of their day and less at night, storing the energy produced by the windmills plays a crucial role in meeting those shifting needs.
Energy demand fluctuates quite a bit through the day. Obviously, overnight hours, we're not using as much energy as we are through the peak supper time hour of the day. So the amount of energy that's being used coming from the wind varies.
The battery is the first of its kind in Canada.
We've just purchased a 2 megawatt hour battery system that we're going to be demonstrating here. But it's 2 megawatt hours or 1 megawatt of energy that can move. The peak island demand is in excess of 200 megawatts, so it's still a small percent, but it's very scalable. You just can put more of these units on if it makes financial sense.
The data that Harper's staff will be collecting will help wind energy producers around the world determine if the batteries make sense economically and can be used on a more widespread, practical scale.
There are other applications where it might make more sense to be, say, in the basement of a large commercial building. Or at the end of a subdivision. For the next number of years at least, we'll see these battery systems demonstrated at a larger utility scale, at least in places like Prince Edward Island.
The benefit of renewables is that they don't burn carbon and produce carbon dioxide. That's the greenhouse gas that causes climate change.
At the University of Prince Edward Island, there's a group of researchers studying the impact of climate change on PEI. Shayan Agdassi went to the Climate Change Lab to find out more.
As Bob Dylan once said, the times, they are changing. And for PEI, that's certainly the case. Don Jardine, part of the research climate change at UPEI, says PEI is the most vulnerable to sea level rise due to climate change, but he hopes to change that.
Being an island province, and in fact all of the Atlantic provinces have got large coastline areas, so we are very vulnerable to sea level rise. So in the future we're trying to develop scenarios to predict what might happen, what infrastructure might be vulnerable, and then to develop adaptation plans to help people adapt to that.
The climate change team at UPEI have developed a program that helps them figure out which areas are more at risk to sea level rise on the island and when it would take place. Decreasing greenhouse gases are one of the ways to help prevent climate change on PEI.
Drive cars that are more fuel efficient, protect our buildings by insulating them, doing all the stuff to, conserve energy and keep energy inside, all that kind of stuff. You just have to think about it for a minute. If we get a sea level rise, like the projections are by the year 2100, we're going to have a meter of sea level rise in eastern North America.
But most importantly, Jardine says islanders need to be more informed about climate change to really be able to change things.
Well, I think the first thing that each one of us needs to do is get better educated ourselves so that we know what we're talking about and we have real examples and have the facts. We still have to do what we can to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions we produce as individuals. We have to be serious about it and talk it up ourselves because the better we are informed, the more likely that we'll influence people that we know.
Sean Dassey, Holland College, Severe Webcast.
And in Stratford, hundreds of families are looking to the past to conserve energy. They're using what would have been a common sight at every home 100 years ago, rain barrels. Eric McMurray has that story.
In the fall of 2012, the town of Stratford was approached to give residents, 1,000 of them, rain barrels to help conserve water. The rain barrels were given out in 2013.
So it's a research project, partnership between the Insurance Bureau of Canada and the town of Stratford, and it's a sustainability initiative. When you have a large rainfall, that water, instead of going into the ground and down eventually into the water table and provides water for us to drink and shower, etc., that if you can take 1,000 rain barrels, and each rain barrel is about 200 and some liters, so that'd be 200,000 liters in a major rainfall. Instead of that water going into the ground or into our stormwater management system and then eventually into the river and into the ocean, it goes into we hold it, okay. And then what we do is we use it later when people need to either water their garden or their flowers or whatever. Or we disperse it in a controlled fashion into the ground after the major rainfall.
While many residents took part in the initiative to get their rain barrels, some residents have already been saving water. Debbie Clark has had rain barrels for over 15 years. The reason? Her garden.
As we started to expand our garden, it required a lot more water, constantly using the hose, hard on the water pumps. During drought season, when you should not be running your hose, we needed something to fall back on in order to keep the gardens going. And like I say, as we expanded the garden, we needed more water. So hence we started with one barrel. And then a few years after that, we had access to another barrel. These are just reprocessed barrels that we managed to get our hands on. It's made a huge difference in the amount of water that we do use because we do have a fair few gardens to water. Plus, we used to have a vegetable garden as well. And not only that, using the hose water on delicate plants doesn't work. It's too harsh for them. So the rain barrels, the water is air temperature, which suits them much better.
It has a positive impact in terms of the environment. It's an old-fashioned idea that we're hoping that will allow people to reuse water for watering outdoor plants instead of taking water from our well water that we would need. And so it's a sustainability in terms of our water supply. That's the concept here. And if you can use less of our water that we use for people to consume, to drink and stuff, then that takes less, the water will be there in the future, hopefully.
You know, should we ever happen to go on water meters in Stratford, it will make a huge difference for us.
The difference can still be seen. The town still offers rain barrels to those who want them. It's a small idea, but it holds a lot of potential. Both Mrs. Clark and Mayor Dunphy said it's one of the small steps towards a more sustainable town, though Mrs. Clark said the lifestyle of 100% renewable energy on PEI, while possible, is difficult and not for everybody. Eric McMurray, Holland College Surveyor, Stratford.
5 years ago, it would have been a pipe dream to even think about the possibility of 100% renewable energy. But new research and technologies are bringing us closer.
And it's islanders in their home and at work that are leading the way. And this matters. Given the potential cost to PEI from climate change, we all have to ask one question. If we're not ready to change the way we do things, why should others? I'm Luke Kenny.
And look out for opportunities to join us in the push to 100% renewable in the months ahead. I'm Kayla Woodside. Thanks for joining us on the Holland College Surveyor webcast.